All right, how's everybody doing? My name is Todd Richards,
And I'm Darko Vukovic.
and we are with the Colorado Freedom Coalition. First things first, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. This only helps our candidates that we're interviewing get their message out to as many people as possible. And in this podcast, we're interviewing people who are trying to advance liberty and freedom in the state of Colorado. And today we are joined by Rachel Stovall. And I believe you are running for House District 17. Is that correct?
Yes, that is in southeast Colorado Springs for any of our viewers or listeners who aren't familiar with the huge map that, governs our state.
Yeah, the crazy map that has been redrawn, and we can't seem to find a good map that shows all the new districts and all the new lines and stuff. So it's been ridiculous trying to figure out what's going on.
I'm extremely sure that's been difficult and quite the adventure. I mean, just us learning about some of our areas that are brand new ones that we didn't have before has been kind of, a lot of work. And thank goodness for Sidekick and i360 and some other databases like that, so we could actually get to the point that we were having it pretty figured out. But it's been a lot. And then our particular district, we were told, was drawn 12-point lean to the Democrats. Yet by primary, we had turned out twice as many voters as the opposition had. So that was just really interesting in its own right.
That's yeah, it seems, well, that's the consequences of elections.
Bad governance.
You get you get that chance to redraw the lines at that time. So it's been crazy trying to figure out what's who's where and what's where, and I don't know. It's madness. So
admittedly, it's been a lot. We just did old-fashioned organizing. I've been walking since February. Every single week. I have walked in the snow. I have walked in the rain. I have walked in the blazing sun. I am 30 pounds less than when I started. And what I have learned walking on these neighborhoods and meeting people at the doors is Coloradans are really angry about inflation, extremely upset about the cost of housing. In my particular area, there's a lot of angst about huge homeless camps, which is new for us. They used to be in a different area of the city, and everybody's perplexed at what is happening for it to be such a noticeable difference. And finally, I don't know, I think this is the bane of the existence of every Coloradan. Why can't somebody fix these goddamn roads? What is going on? We just want roads and sidewalks that won't pop the wheels on our cars.
no, I don't think that's ever going to happen to get the
probably
it's
not.
that freeze and thaw cycle that just annihilates the roads, and then
I
unfortunately
think that's true, but I think that for voters, at least having someone look like they were interested in the area would help. And so, it is walking into these problems that we really have to have a collaboration between citizens and, organizations, and you have to deal with the bureaucrats, which is different than dealing with the elected officials. And then you have to try to do city, county, state, and get some type of agreement. And I realize it's going to be a challenge, exactly like herding cats. But I've decided to ask the people of House District 17 down here in Colorado Springs if they would like to take on someone who would actually like to do the work and who will try to get some things changed.
yeah, that's a lot of is it a big district?
Well, it's kind of the usual size of a Colorado district. So most Colorado districts are anywhere from 84 to 85,000 people, and we're the same.
But you don't have a lot of rural.
No, I would say that we have a tiny bit of rural because we are on one side of Peterson Air Force Base,
Oh,
and
okay.
then past the base is kind of rural. But so we have a little bit of rural, suburban, and then, some spaces that are pretty decidedly urban. So we're a little bit of everything. And we have all kinds of people. We have a widespread of ages, we have a widespread of incomes. It's really very interesting.
Do you have Peterson and do you have Schriever? That's off too far.
Schriever is actually further away than we are. So we have Peterson, and then we come up right to the edge of Fort Carson, which is interesting too.
Oh, really?
Well,
Hmm.
as you know, Colorado Springs has 5 military bases.
Oh,
So,
yes. I
you
tried to
know,
get stationed there many times and that got turned down.
mhm.
So
1 in 6 in the population is a veteran.
yeah, military, ex-military. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That's
One of the largest, types of cities, it really probably in the US. So we are military focused here in Colorado Springs when we can be. And I would say honestly, I think it's one of the things that we do well. We actually do that pretty well. And our homeless population is decidedly most of the time not military, as the military folks have quite a few resources that include mental health treatment more so than the average citizen by far.
Yep. And unfortunately, there still is a big homeless veteran population. You see it in Denver and a couple other places around the
Mhm.
country, unfortunately. But yeah, well, um, not as widespread as people would think. But when you do the percentage wise, it's a big percentage. So
Oh, we
um,
know. Denver
yeah.
has a habit of putting their homeless on buses and sending them down to Colorado Springs, telling them that we have better programs. So we
Oh,
know all about it.
oh, that was
Yeah,
nice. Hmm.
Democrat problem solving.
Well, some people would say that's a Republican problem solving by
Yeah, it's
shipping.
gone both ways
It
recently.
goes, ship the immigrants up from Texas up into New York and Chicago and all that other stuff. But
Oh, come on, guys. You know that's political theater.
oh, of course it is. But I think it's fantastic. But it's great. It's great political theater, and I would like to go and watch that personally, but don't want to particularly go all the way out there. So, but
So Rachel, you mentioned people having angst about homeless camps. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? I think, I hear quite often people say, oh, it's just housing is so expensive, people can't afford housing, therefore they're homeless. I also hear, oh, people just get, hooked on drugs and they don't want to go through the program that is available to them to become clean, to be eligible for for housing. What's going on in your district? Can you paint a little bit more of a picture?
I can. In our district, that's not either or, it's both. So
hmm,
we literally have, let's say, the single mom with 6 kids gets evicted. Suddenly she's living with the children in the car. So we have that person where housing really is just plain too expensive. A 1 bedroom in Colorado Springs is anywhere from 12. Yeah, I don't know. The lowest I found was 900, which was amazing. But anywhere from 900 to, I would say, $1,200, $1,300 for 1 bedroom. There's something so drastically wrong here. We're not even sure what to do about it. So there's definitely that side of it. And then the addiction side, ever since the state of Colorado decided to give us these mandates where you couldn't go to the church, you could hardly go to the doctor, and you know, um, most of us were declared non-essential. Weed and alcohol were declared essential, and I think it really shows across the state of Colorado with pretty much record addiction. So once people get to the point they're in that state, getting them back to a place of self-sufficiency is extraordinarily difficult. And I understand the housing first model, but I do feel that it's important to set some goals for people getting healthy and or mental health treatment, to get these problems taken care of too. And I bring you that experience from what's called the Pikes Peak Continuum of Care. We have, like, HUD is set up all over the country. This particular continuum of care does what's called coordinated entry. So people come into the continuum. We do a vulnerability index. We learn where they're at. We actually have to pour the resources into the people who are most vulnerable, i.e., they have the most problems. So most of the time we're getting that person that's addicted. And ironically, that's the very person who often is the least interested in being housed because they're not done using it. And I've had people use that phrase, that apartment sounds nice, but I don't want to stop yet. So I'm not going to, which is kind of a huge shock when you have to go back to the continuum and go, they don't want it. We have to go to the next person on the list. We all kind of scratch our heads and wonder, like, what? But this does happen. So we have to really work on both sides of the problem. It has to be done from a case management point of view, and it just can't be one size fits all. So that's what I see in House District 17. But the shocker for everyone who is a housed resident in the district is how much that's grown. We used to see people once in a while, and it didn't feel like it was a lot of people. Now we have huge homeless encampments, and we're talking, 50, 75 people. When did this start? None of us is entirely sure, although we know that we started seeing this in 2020 and it's quietly gotten larger. And here we are in 2022. And for us, it's the largest that it's ever been. Meanwhile, downtown Colorado Springs, which used to have considerably more homeless in it, seems to have considerably less. So we don't think that they really solved the problem downtown. We just think that those folks were kind of driven out by police because downtown is the tourist area and that they have moved into Southeast Colorado Springs. So we're going to have to do everything. I'm hoping we can do some tiny homes, as this has been an excellent solution in other cities, just because of the way that the tiny home villages are set up. And those are also set up so that people who live in the tiny home village, the apartment is a little abbreviated. So imagine the place that has, kind of where, you can cook and you can lay down and all the rest of that. But the true cooking place is a shared kitchen with other people. The bathrooms, shared area. You know why? Because a lot of people will shoot up until they die in their bathroom, but they won't do that around other people. And it's a way of kind of having an eyes on check with people who live in the tiny home villages. Like, have you seen Joe? Well, I haven't seen Joe for 3 days. Ooh, maybe we better check Joe's apartment. The sense of community actually helps people to heal. And so Austin has set up some really much larger sort of camps. We had a proposed one in Colorado Springs, but we're not able to work it out because of its proximity to the airport. Long story. Suffice it to say, apparently you can't be in the path of where planes land. Yeah, that's what happened.
So you can live under a railroad bridge next to a ditch, but definitely not by the airport. Yeah,
where the plane is 50,000 feet above you. Yeah, I occasionally, I do not understand politics in Colorado Springs, but I feel like we'll just encourage another nonprofit to try again, and a little further out of the air traffic path, so nobody feels like the FCC is going to come and get us.
Yeah, and another big thing I noticed in 2020, which might be contributing to this, I have no proof that it is or isn't, but when the governor put a ban on evictions, it again, I saw on your website, it's one of these feel-good legislations, but any landlord, and I know quite a few that got stuck with tenants that basically stopped paying.
Absolutely.
You're now in a position that as soon as you get rid of that tenant, your bar for the next one goes way up. And so your willingness to help somebody who's having a hard time, who maybe can't come up with a whole deposit, who maybe, doesn't have quite the qualifications you're looking for, your willingness to take a chance as a landlord went way down. Exactly. Because now you know that if they don't pay, there's not much you can do about it.
Right. So feel good legislation is the bane of my existence. Do you hear me? I can't eat. Oh, I hate it so much. Let me give you an example. So last year, some of our friends, Leslie Harrod, in the Black Caucus and some other ones thought that they would help out Section 8 all over the state. So they wrote up this legislation that it was wrong to refuse to accept a Section 8 voucher, for the reason of, let's say, inadequate income or source of income. And they were like, this is going to create more affordable housing. Well, when they wrote the law, they had a kind of clause that was, well, you don't have to accept the voucher if your rent is so high that the voucher won't cover it. So guess what happened to rents where I live? That's right. The apartments that were $800 are now $1,200. Guess how much the voucher is? You
$1,200.
guessed it, $750
Oh,
for a 1-bedroom. Oh yeah. So we have people walking around with the voucher and they're still living out of their car. Yep. That's that feel-good legislation I'm talking about. It felt like they were attacking the problem. Instead, they made the problem much worse. It's one of those things I want to sit with somebody and go, can we repeal this? Because, if we get rid of this and we do something else that is maybe an incentive for landlords, plus we fix Section 8 so that it doesn't take 4 to 6 months for a landlord to get paid, we might have someone actually want to take the vouchers.
Yeah. No, I mean, the easier evictions are, I know this sounds terrible, but it's the reality. The easier the evictions are, the more likely a landlord is willing to take a chance on somebody who needs the help. The harder it is, the more strict and defensive landlords are going to become.
Absolutely. So, of course, we have new lawmaking, and we have decided that the tenants who didn't pay the rent, right? The tenants who didn't pay the rent are the ones who are due an attorney for the contract that they broke. Yes, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. And I'm telling you, the backlash among those who own the property is going to be massive. Already, they're trying to do things to avoid the population that can't pay, but this is getting ready to get much worse because someone decided to pass a feel-good law again, not looking at all at the situation from the vantage point of those who are renting the houses.
Right.
And I understand both sides of it. I've rented a house, from someone. I've rented a house to someone, and both have kind of their sets of things. But these lawmakers, I really think that they only get their information from one side. They go, oh, I feel so sorry for the tenants. Well, if you sign a contract that says your rent is $1,500 a month, then people pretty much expect you to engage in what would, fulfill your end of the contract, or to possibly negotiate a new contract. What they don't expect is what happened during COVID. You just lay around and don't do anything, and no one holds you accountable. And, those are a lot of the folks who cannot get into housing now because the landlords they're not having any of it. And I understand why they're not having any of it, because they can always go find the tenant. With our housing scarcity, the latest report out from the state of Colorado says we need 200,000 units of new housing. So we're in this housing crunch where we already don't have enough. So if you don't have enough and you can have the person who can pay $2,000 a month easily, and you got to choose between that and the person who is going to have a hard time paying $1,200, we all know what both of us would choose. That's why we need different incentives. And yes, I know as Republicans, we don't like incentives. I know it. I know we don't like incentives. We don't like taxes. We don't want to do these things. But there are some times where, first of all, incentives were kind of there anyway. We're using the complete wrong incentives right now. So if we could at least get into some bearable incentives, we maybe could solve some of this problem. But it's Colorado, and the Dems run our houses.
Yeah, another feel-good legislation I think that came out, I believe it was passed last year to take effect next year, was basically getting a permit to be a landlord in Denver. And so now you have to basically do an inspection with the city to make sure your unit's to code and whatnot. to make sure it's suitable to be rented.
Mhm.
And I'm just sitting back wondering, okay, well, I don't think anybody wants, slums out there. I don't think anyone wants apartments that don't meet, a certain standard. But every unit that you take out of the pool through this, where are the people going to live? Where are they supposed to live?
I don't know. But having experienced the other side of that and advocating for people, I remember walking a house and from the waist down, there were no wall. So all the sheetrock was gone. Let me explain. So all the sheetrock was gone and it's open and you can see whatever and you see the occasional rat. And then you walked into the kitchen, no stove. The the dishwasher was outside. And they
Hmm.
had black mold in the bathrooms. So I had explained to this family, so I'm pretty sure where you're living is making you ill. 4 pages of code violations when I asked for our city to come in and write up a report on it. I Help me God. I had to go somewhere. I wanted to choke out the landlord. I did. I had a couple of minutes of just being not very rational. And then I sat down and tried to see if we could possibly negotiate something. In the end, we simply had to move the family out of it. And they took like 6 or 7 months fixing it so it would be habitable again. So the warrant of habitability, which is kind of what this law pertains to, I get why we're doing that in Denver. I get it. What I'm not entirely sure about is, one, who the hell is going to do all these inspections on the department that's very small? And, you know, do they really think that adding another barrier for landlords is going to make them, just like, hey, run over here and grab this at an inexpensive price?
Hmm.
I don't know what they're thinking. Let me stop. I do know what they're thinking. Our legislature in Denver has had all these years of being under this whole CRT thinking, oppressor, oppressed, this whole thing. And so everyone who has money and their thinking is bad, except them. Except them. They're allowed to line their pockets any way they possibly can. But no one else is allowed to have any money or they suddenly become a demonic, terrible person. And so everything is supposed to, be leaned towards the people who are in the position of not having money, because apparently not having money is virtuous. Have I described it well? Because it's really what it looks like is going on in Denver. And I don't know. I have days where I'm like, maybe I should have some of what they're smoking. And then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have some of what they're smoking. It might kill me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, and I always try to stay as literal as I can. And it's like in this situation, it sounds like, if you walked into one of these units and it wasn't up to standard and you forced the landlord to get it up to standard, my question is, why would the landlord rent it at the previous price?
That
Maybe for the duration of the lease where they're required by law, but as soon as they can, now they have a higher value unit and they're
exactly.
going
Now
to
they have
rent it for
market
higher.
rate. Exactly. Now
And
they have
so,
market
so
rate.
even if you succeed, what you're doing is you're taking the pool of housing away from the lowest tier and you're moving it into maybe a higher tier, and you're
That
not really helping those that are at risk of homelessness at
now.
all.
So either these lawmakers are inept as hell and stupid and should be voted out, or they mean to do this on purpose
Hmm.
so that they can bring in universal basic income and put all of Coloradans on it. Wait a second. Did you know they already premiered that program in Denver? And all the
Yes.
recipients of the programs are from the communities of color, trying to use their quote that I read, trans, gay, and they feel that it is unfair that Colorado has placed so much emphasis on work, that these folks should receive their universal basic income no matter what they do. There should not be an accountability to have a job or make an effort or be drug free. Yeah, that's what we're doing in Denver.
Well, I'm glad I live way far away from Denver. Way far away. I live closer to Cheyenne than I do to Denver.
Yeah, I I don't understand what they're doing. It just has no basis in business reality. And so for me, not surprisingly, the Colorado Chamber of Commerce endorsed me over my opponent. Apparently, she gave them a lecture on how they were oppressors. I can't understand why people wouldn't like that.
Jeez. So more feel-good legislation. I guess these are propositions, so it's up to the voters. But what are your thoughts on FF, which is the Healthy School Meals for All? And I'd love to also hear, maybe since we're already talking about housing, Proposition 123, which is dedicated revenue for affordable housing programs.
Yeah, Proposition 123. You mean scam 123? You mean that one?
That's a good
Yeah.
way.
I'm sorry.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a pretty strong opinion, isn't it?
Oh, I totally agree
I
with
said
you.
what I said, and I ain't gonna take it back.
Yeah, the word affordable got me, and it's like, well, there's nothing
Stop it.
affordable about
Stop
it.
it. There's not going to be anything affordable. These people are going to pay off their friends who are in the contracting and construction businesses. And then when I look at 300 million, and yet your threshold is only 10,000 units of housing. So I don't understand the math on that right now. Like, so every unit we're going to build costs $3 million. Is that what we're doing? I must be doing Common Core math. I don't know who in their right mind thinks that is a good proposition at all. And I have no idea why we are sitting there convincing Coloradans out of yet more money on the thing that's not going to work. 10,000 units of housing sounds like a lot until you recognize the fact that we need 200,000 units. So we're going to do almost nothing to increase the affordable housing. You know, and we're going to do it at exorbitant costs that line some politician's pocket. Next.
Yeah, and what caught my attention was the thresholds for qualifying for affordable housing, where somebody in Boulder could make almost double somebody, and I believe it was Alamosa County that they used as an example, and qualify for affordable housing, whereas somebody in Alamosa County can't, despite making almost half of what the person in Boulder does.
Yeah. You know, we're just not telling the truth about what's happening in our housing markets. When we get rid of these regulations that are keeping developers from simply coming in and building pricing, you know, different pricing points. So, you know what I mean? We have some builders who are kind of like, I'll build AMI and take the tax credits, and they'll build, you know, the lowest tier, right? And then we have some other ones who can come in and go, you know what, I'll build at this tier, but they can't have construction defect laws where they can be sued for 9 years. 9 years later, we brought in housing experts from Detroit here in Colorado Springs. And mind you, this was, you know, kind of the leftist organization, the Colorado Springs Indy. John Weiss was the publisher at the time. And he flew in these experts to talk with us about what we needed to do to create, quote unquote, more affordable housing. And they said, you guys are insane. These are the worst construction defect laws we've ever seen in our lives. You're stupid. When you get rid of those laws, maybe somebody will build for you. Now check this out. That was 5 years ago. So what do we still have? The stupid construction defect laws where somebody can get together with a group and one apartment is faulty, but all 50 of the tenants can sue. Yeah, that's what we're doing. It's not a shock that it doesn't work. And I have these conversations with people and they're like, you really read these laws, don't you? Yeah, I really read them. I'm a nerd. Wait. I'm a blurred. I'm a black nerd. I admit it. I'm not mad. I want to be a lawmaker because I'm fascinated with what the laws are and how they don't work. And I just think we maybe could institute some laws that do work. It won't be as sexy to fundraise around, though. So I guess we'll have to stick to social issues and argue about something like abortion, which could be fixed with correct use of birth control.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, one person I follow very closely is Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Rachel.
Oh, aren't I? Yes.
Okay. And then one of the things he always talks about is just, if you want to make the world a better place, just stop doing bad things. Like, we're not expecting you to go solve all of the problems that are elsewhere. Just you personally stop doing bad things. So, and I would love to have at least the representatives and the government just not make it worse. I don't expect you to solve it. Just don't make it worse, please.
Well, we're going to have to vote in every single Republican in the state and every single seat we have to just possibly not make it worse. And unfortunately, I don't know that that's on our horizon, but it does look like we can make a difference as far as the Senate is concerned, at least have some blocking power and bring a little more balance to the House, which is what a lot of the Denver groups are doing. And check this out, including ones that are mostly run by Democrats. The Democrat business people are like, we have to get rid of these progressives. It is the most interesting thing I've ever seen. I'm like, aren't you a Democrat? And they're like, yeah, but they're crazy. I'm like, oh, so you're not crazy. They're like, no. So moderate Democrats are like, this extremism has to go. They're destroying our state. And indeed, the numbers are alarming. Did you know we lost 40% of Colorado business during COVID?
Wow.
40%. Mostly small business. So let's talk about how that powers out for a second. In Colorado, most of the economy was powered by small business. Ready? 85%. But during COVID, we upheld all of the big box corporations that only bring in the 15%. And we destroyed the small businesses when we declared them non-essential. There were a couple of industries that really came out of this like bandits. Home Depot did quite well. Lowe's doing extremely well. Walmart doing extremely well. Wait a second. The weed industry doubled. We went from an astounding $28 million a month in revenue to twice that. Alcohol, they're doing well. They are setting up new laws and lobbying so that they can drive in vehicles to bring the alcohol to your house. Yes, y'all.
Yeah, that's
That's what we're
that's the first world problem, lazy American law that they want to put in. It's like
yeah,
now you can get alcohol brought to your house with your pizza and your salad, and like
exactly.
I guess they wouldn't be eating pizza, they'd be eating their vegetarian salads and then drinking their beer.
Yeah, that's important. Let's bring alcohol to your house because
Yeah.
but hey, it's not heroin. So both weed and alcohol are harm reduction. Haven't you heard? They're not a standalone addictions.
Yeah. At least they're not bringing meth to your house. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Well,
yet.
the mushrooms will be first. That's
yeah.
what they approved in Denver. They wanted to make mushrooms. Oh, and of course we've got the places where we can shoot up now and we can put our needle away neatly in a box. Yeah. Am I crazy or somebody shooting heroin maybe need a trip to rehab? Maybe I'm confused.
How about healthy schools for all? Healthy meals, healthy school meals for all. Sorry.
I think the thing that irritates me about the healthy meals for all is if I really thought they were going to use that money on nutritious meals for the children, I would have been okay. You can take money out of my pocket to feed kids. I am not mad. But I just have a feeling that money will be going places that isn't meals and isn't on the children. I have trust issues. Y'all have to pray for me because I believe these folks about as far as I can throw them. And so it just happens in Colorado. A lot of times we get something titled like that and the 2-page summary seems so good, but when you read the body of the law, it allows for other things. So don't fall for the okie doke, y'all. They lying.
Yeah, no, and we don't have to go into the details. We did that in another podcast, but yeah, this one is just riddled with all kinds of stuff not related to helping kids eat well. Let's put it that way.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So, speaking of COVID, a lot of this A lot of stuff came out of COVID. Granted, at the beginning, we didn't know what was going on, so it was kind of a little bit scary at the beginning.
Sure.
So if an executive of a higher authority, say the governor, the president, declares personal rights to operate a business, use services, evict non-paying tenants, attend church, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are to be temporarily suspended due to a public emergency. And I think a public emergency could be anything, but we're just going to focus on COVID. It could be floods or fires or anything like that. What would you do in your role above and beyond voting, protesting, expressing opinion to reject the executive action? So Polis comes out and decides that, there's a new variant and we need to mask everybody up, and we're going to sit this out for another 2 weeks.
Well, I want to tell you that I would work hard, that I would be out organizing within the people to help empower them to truthfully resist, because mandates that are stupid, we need to begin treating as such. And it was so fascinating last time how all the stupid mandates went away when Coloradans just absolutely stood up and said, we ain't doing this. So I think we need to cut to, we ain't doing this faster. But the truth is, I'm likely going to be in jail because I might be trying to slap the black off of him. Like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? You know what this did the last time. My God, you destroyed half our businesses the last time. I'm kidding. I'm not going to hit anybody. I just feel that we have to cut to the place of no tolerance where Coloradans stand up. When the protests moved to his house, it was quick. It was interesting how quickly it was over. We need to skip the being mad part for a while and immediately organize to, we're bringing this to you. We're going to be at the governor's mansion. We're going to clog up the highway. We said we ain't doing it. We're running around. You know what? We're going to pack with our rifles and shotguns and let you know that we are armed. We're armed and we're mad. We may not fight you yet. Maybe you need to worry that we're going to fight you. We need to get to that point a hell of a lot faster than we got there during 2020 and 21. Because all those mandates left when they realized the people weren't having any of it. I'm sorry, I have to support that aspect of freedom for Coloradans because of my own lived experience. I'm going to tell you this part of my story. My husband went into the hospital with COVID in May of 2021, and I didn't get to receive the man back home. I was locked off the ward with, lots of other families in Colorado that suffered this experience over stupid feel-good lawmaking that somebody came up with in fear. We have new laws now where people cannot be locked off these wards and they can go in and they can advocate for their loved ones. I went through an entire experience where on the COVID ward, my husband was not fed nor bathed for 11 days. And when I said something, they called security on me and threatened to physically drag me out of the building. The only reason I did not get dragged physically out of the building was that I had the presence of mind to put it on Facebook. I put myself on Facebook Live and I called CSPD, our police department, and I put it on speaker. And I was like, I have 4,000 friends and I'm going to tell them what you're doing in this hospital. Otherwise, I would have been unceremoniously dragged off somewhere and probably blamed for it and charged. That is not the way to treat Coloradans. We're going to have to be less tolerant. We're going to have to be less nice. We're going to have to be less reasonable. I'm a Black woman, guys. And so I grew up in a tradition where protest was like the air we breathed. So we're all going to have to be Black in Colorado. We're going to have to bring our protest to a level where they're like, these people aren't having it. And they can take their masks and go sit down somewhere. Because not only did they not stop the spread of COVID, the more they masked and mandated, the worse it got. Am I crazy? Did you watch those numbers like I did?
Yeah,
Liz,
they moved.
Exactly. You
the
ain't
wrong
telling
way.
the truth. We ain't doing it. We're not doing it. If anything, I look at the vaccine and wonder if it was spreading it.
Maybe.
It's bad. It's bad. No, listen, average listener. I know you're usually at home and when you're with your family and you are nice and you are law abiding, throw that away. Get ready to be someone who stands up loudly and screams with your arm linked in your neighbor's arm. Learn how to roll around. Look, be wolves. Learn how to roll around in a pack. Okay? We cannot continue to take these ridiculous rules, mandates, and supposed laws from the people who are lining their pockets at our expense. If you're gonna go down for something, just go down. let's take it back to the 60s. Be like John Lewis and start you some good trouble, because we cannot convince these so-called lawmakers and those in the executive branch to leave us the hell alone and let us be free till we prove to them that we ain't having it. Sorry, I get a little passionate about that.
No, that's fine. That brings up a good point for Colorado and the current administration's desire to get rid of as much of the Second Amendment as they possibly can. I mean, we just, even the last administration getting rid of gun capacities, and I mean, you just go right down the line. They're trying to get rid of
these lying fools. Stop it. The only capacity they're trying to get rid of is for the citizenry to fight back. The criminals in my neighborhood have access to guns. So you know what? I have a shotgun because I'm not necessarily an impressive shot, but some buckshot on your ass and you will get out of my house.
Oh yeah.
Oh, if you want my gun, bitch, come get it. That's what I have to say about it. And I thoroughly encourage Coloradans to stand up for your rights as well. Let them know they ain't taking a damn thing because it's yours. It's in your house. You have the rights to it. The only request I have about gun safety is this. If you can possibly lock up where your children can't get it, you know, in between, they have these great new safes, you know, where you put your thumb on it and it pops open, you know, that would be, you know, a good sort of thing. That's the only safety thing. But we have perfectly adequate laws in Colorado governing gun ownership right now. And we need to stand up for what's in the Colorado Constitution and the US Constitution and let people know we're having none of that. You ain't coming and getting a damn thing. Nothing. Nada.
So that also leads into another good question. If domestic law enforcement is allowed to possess and employ specific firearms and equipment due to the threat they face the criminals today, why shouldn't citizens be allowed to possess the same arms and equipment to face the same risks that criminals are getting out there? And
I'm a little nervous about that because, as we all know, those in law enforcement do go through pretty specialized training, and they have, you know, some accountabilities that you and I don't have. Like me with the shotgun, you know what I mean? We probably don't want me running around with a Glock. You know, that may not be a good idea, right? Because I'm not necessarily trained to use that, although I can effectively point that shotgun and get you up off of me if you come in here. So for citizenry that wants the same level of that, you know, usage and equipment and all the rest of that, why don't we just start citizen academies through all of the police departments and get the people trained the same as what the police have? And we could keep perfectly adequate files on the people. We could do our little background checks and our other things that we're concerned about, right? And we would know that there would be an alignment of knowledge, understanding, and, you know, and they might even, you know where the weapons are at, you know, those that we tell them about. Yeah, I said that. So,
Yep.
That's what I think would solve the problem. And it would be reasonable, and we wouldn't be taking away anybody's rights. I'm confused with some of these policies where you tell me you want me to have my freedoms and then you run over and try to take them. Give me my freedoms. And if my freedoms come with some, hey, get some training, do this, do that. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Darko, you got any follow up on that? You almost always do.
No, not specifically with that, but I do just love listening to you speak, Rachel, on these matters. And I'm sitting here wondering, when polls come out, the Black community ends up being 88% or ish, let's say, don't quote me on the exact number, leaning towards Democrats. Why is that? Like, I'm just dumbfounded by that. And I know it's probably an issue of outreach, and I know it's probably some history to it. But then I'm wondering what history, because all the way up to the 60s, I believe the Democrats stood in the way of Black people, and it was, Republicans to some degree that at least were sympathetic to the cause. But maybe, I won't go as far as to say, solve the problems, because I think the Black community solved its own problems, and I love that. So I'm just sitting here wondering, what could we do to help more in the Black community wake up and see the picture that you're presenting?
Okay, so I want you to consider, first of all, you have not been told the truth with that 80% number. What they have not told you is that 30% of the Black community is so angry they don't vote. And so they're not counted. Do you understand? So here we are with this big chunk of people, they don't count, so that you don't know that many people don't agree with them. Do you understand? Okay, so that's the first thought. As far as outreach, we definitely need to do more outreach, but I think a lot of what happened in the 60s was it was marketing and media. When the Democrats began enlisting, the media and sending community organizers into the homes, often, piggybacking what used to be the helpful union organizers. They came in on this trusted basis, along the people that had fought for rights, right? They fought for the 4-day week. They fought for higher pay. They, fought to be in unions. And so they brought trusted people and immediately began lying out their butt. But it's hard to look at the trusted person that helps you to get to your standard of living that you wanted and actually wrap your mind around the fact that they might be lying to you. But this is what happened. And so you can see that in everything that happened. Did you know we were 70% married in my community? Isn't that astounding? And we are the opposite now, because they sent the former union organizers and the other sort of community organizers like Obama, right? They sent them into our homes, into our churches. That's right, being in somebody's personal life to advise you. And so all of these Black women were told, oh, your man's acting up a bit. Get rid of him, girl. We've got these new programs and you can do blah, 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 blah. And it only took a few decades to go from 70% married to 29%. So Republicans would really have to go into these highways and byways, these places, these homes, and all the rest of that. They'd have to go in like that. Friendship sort of things. If this were church, I would tell you that we have to do friendship evangelism. And we have to get these folks back one house at a time. And this also means we're going to have to get rid of some of the stereotypes that we have held while we are doing that, because part of the reason this has worked so well is we had a lot of African Americans who moved out of what was like 50% poverty in the 60s into only 20%, while our population doubled, right? So we have more people in the middle class than were alive in the 60s. But because we're inundated with these crazy messages all day, every day, we don't know it. Most of the middle class families basically think they're the only ones. They don't know that has become our norm. Or, you know, and it's like Stockholm syndrome. We have identified with the people who are actually hurting us. So it's a big job. It's a big job. I wish we could do something where we would shut off media. I'm tired of CNN and their lies. I'm tired of MSNBC and their lies. I'm tired of ABC and their lies. I'm tired of CBS and their lies. I mean, only people I can trust right now, C-SPAN, damn it.
Yep.
It ain't right.
Yep.
Gosh, and it's so the thing that just drives me the craziest is when I see prominent, successful Black people get diminished by the very people that claim that they're on their side. And it just like, I'll just give you some examples. Like Thomas Sowell is one of my favorite authors. You know, I love reading Thomas Sowell. I love listening to Clarence Thomas's opinions on judicial matters. We saw, you know, Winston Sears win as lieutenant governor in Virginia, and it's like they're so quick to, and they're so contrived that I'm like, I don't even think anyone believes the contrived messaging they try to come to explain away these people's positions. I just wish we could shine a bigger light on just that messaging that they use to refer to such prominent Black people, and you know, just expose how messed up it really is. And I think that alone would do wonders.
It would. You know, we made some mistakes as conservatives. We pulled away from the cultural centers because you know, it was so frustrating. I get that it was frustrating, right? But when we left education and we left government and we left, you know, religion, you know, to go, you know, pull off over here by ourselves, you know, when we left business, when we left arts and entertainment, you understand where I'm kind of going with cultural centers. When we left those spaces, we left them to the people currently running it into the ground. So what we have to do now is we have to push back into those spaces. I like what's happening on these school boards, which is pretty funny because, you know, a lot of the teachers and the really overpaid bureaucrats, they're really angry about it. But I think it's fantastic that we're pushing back into those spaces and we're pushing back to where the power is within those spaces. We've got to push back into everything. And I think that we should be people who are quote unquote Christian believers should become smart enough to be more covert. Don't quote everything with a Bible verse. You know what the principles are. You know how to live them. You know how to do them. You don't have to be preachy. I tell you what, you can sure change a space by just going in and living it. You know, we need to be more covert and we need to take those spaces back over. Every conservative that's retired, go get you a job at a school. Pretty soon, there won't be somebody letting the drag queen come in, you know, in a thong and somebody putting dollar bills in them. Who does that?
Quite. That's one thing I've been preaching for a long time is it starts at your local level.
Absolutely. These
run
boards,
for school
these
board, run for the school board, run for the town board, run for, you know, the library, you know, just get every, you know, take everything.
Exactly.
And sooner or later, you know, you're starting to take all these little puzzle pieces and they start to form a big piece, and all of a sudden here it is, you know, we don't have, I don't, knock on wood, that we don't have quite that problem up here, but yeah, just vote, go to your local level, go to the town board meetings, go to the school board meetings, run for school board, run for town board,
or just pick one. Just pick one. If, you know, I live Colorado Springs, straight up. It's a Republican stronghold. I will never forget. This was so funny. This nice couple used to actually run the Democrat office here. And he asked to take me out to lunch. And he's just like, I just love you, Rachel. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he was just telling me, I'm so angry as a progressive. I'm walking around here with my head hung low and I'm gonna hold my head high. I said, well, more power to you, brother. And he was kind of like, what about you? I said, what about me? I'm conservative. It was very quiet for a moment. So I said, "What? Do you still love me?" Check this out. He loves me to this day, and his wife gave into my campaign. They're still Democrat, and I'm still a Republican. But what we discovered is that we're cool because we have some of the same values, and we have agreed to disagree on the other values. This is what conservatives need to do. We cannot hide out from our houses in these things. And, if we have one person, I'm going to get on school board and that's going to be my thing. I can't do everything. I'm going to get on the Parks Commission and I can't do everything, but I can do parks. I'm going to get over here and I'm going to jump on the City Planning Commission and see what we can do about getting these buildings together. If each of us took a place, with just a small area of volunteerism, not everything, we would have these spaces back. It's not hopeless, unless we continue to sit in the house in front of Fox and complain.
Yeah, and there's even a level. I would, I hate to use the word below that because it's not quite below, but an even less dedicated form of that is just being a citizen
Yeah,
who shows up to ask the hard questions in front of the large group. Like that alone is powerful enough. And I remember I was an intern at the Transportation Authority in Orange County when I was in college. And I remember my manager telling me, she's like, I think you're going to be one of those guys that's just interested in the projects and you show up and you just like hold our feet to the fire because and that passion, you can't replace that. And when you're not in the political game, you
right.
get to be yourself 100% all the time and
Yeah,
nobody can stop you. And they
right.
have to address you and they have to deal with your concerns and all these concerns have to be documented. So at least you're leaving a paper trail for them and making their job harder to pull wool over people's eyes
Right.
by having at least a paper trail there that could be,
Exactly.
audited later.
Yeah, we have to stop being so damn passive. Um, within the context of being within a campaign, I get occasionally, dang, Rachel, you're kind of, blunt, or, you weren't nice to your opponent about that. Well, no, I wasn't. And
Why should you be?
someone the other day, they're like, I was on your page trying to make a point. You deleted my comments. I said, I didn't want to hear what you had to say. So they were like, you can't do that on your personal page. So I put out a whole PSA. My Facebook page, my personal page is like coming to my house. And if I don't like what you have to say, I will put you out. Good day.
Yep, nothing wrong with that. Nothing
On
wrong with
my
that.
campaign page, if you want to be critical, angry, insane, curse at me, I let you do all of that. But if you come on my personal page and you act up, you're out of here. I'm not having it. And, they're not used to us setting boundaries, but setting the boundaries is the good behavior. Dr. Phil used to say, good fences make good neighbors. I'm out to make all my neighbors good.
That brings up another one, and maybe it's just up here, or maybe it's the whole state, or maybe it's the whole country. Why do Republicans just like to just eat their own? And I see it here all the time when somebody's candidate doesn't make the ballot, they just scream, "Oh, I'm going to take my toys and go home, and I'm not going to vote."
Yeah.
Why?
Let's be honest. I met a former representative while I was out walking doors in a certain area here in House District 17. And he told me how horrifying it was he started a term and it went well. He hit the next term and it was kind of where things began to turn the wrong way. So all of a sudden the ideas aren't working, the campaigns aren't going as well, there's like losing. He was elected for like a third term and it was on, literally couldn't get anything done. Went home in complete shock, didn't even run again. He could have ran for a fourth term, didn't run again. We have people who have lived through these experiences, and instead of coming at this from any kind of place of hope, instead of doing the work, instead of knocking the doors, They have the unions out walking this weekend in my district. Do you know why? Because I've been walking since February. When their candidate was laying around telling you about how she was a beauty contestant and she was cute and she wasn't doing nothing, I was at these people's doors. Do you understand? When she was taking vacations this summer and took a whole week off to go somewhere and cry because she didn't get the Chamber of Commerce endorsement, which you usually don't get after you tell a group they're oppressors. I was out walking. I have 29 precincts and it walked 28. I'm not here for games. I'm going to go back through and walk some of the ones I walked at the beginning and drop off lit and talk to those people again. And I'm going to drop some yard signs and I'm going to remind some people, you better tell your neighbors to vote because you know them people in Denver are crazy. When we get back to doing the work like that, we will regain these areas. And let me be honest, it's not just me walking. I'm teasing about it. We had a team in HD 17. There was somebody with me 95% of the time. It's been amazing. Do you know what I'm saying? These people are so interested. They would rotate in shifts and have walked. We're talking 6 straight months. We've met so many people and those and I didn't just walk the Republican doors. No. I walk from weak Dems all the way up to hard Republicans on these walk lists. And I will sit in front of somebody that swing and I just work to talk to them about what they're interested in. My material very quietly doesn't say Republican on it. I gave away a ton of my material to weak Dems who see a Black woman and go, I like her. I'm going to go with her. Ain't been to my website. Haven't figured out I'm Republican. I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They just were like, when they open their ballot.
But by now, they're going to look at it and go, huh? But then they're going to think, you know what? I told her I was mad about these fentanyl dealers and she gave me the number to the police chief and winked at me and said, don't tell him I gave it to you, but call him a bunch of times till he calls you back. Yeah, we need to get back in these streets and we need to do the political work. Period. A lot of people who aren't necessarily a conservative cannot stand the inflation, are angry about the homeless camps. They do not appreciate the lawmaking that has been engaged in that has increased crime. People in my district don't run their cars in the garage anymore because somebody might come in and take it. Really? Can't warm your car up in the morning? But Colorado has become the center of carjackings. Why? Because Phil Weiser, our attorney general, decided that you don't have to prosecute the person when they take the first car or the second. Apparently, he doesn't think you have to really prosecute till they get to the third car. Pray for me. I would like to hit him right on top of his head, but I'm going to act right, and I'm sure I'm going to be respectful when I meet him. I'm going to just be muttering curses under my breath.
Oh, yes. It's going to be, I would have to say, when you win, it's going to be an exciting first couple weeks with you out there.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I told the Black Caucus I was going to apply, so they're already angry.
Oh, yes.
They're like, what? I'm like, yeah. So after I win, I need to know where, I come to apply to be on the Black Caucus. They're like, well, you can apply. Oh, okay. Come up with a good excuse for not keeping the, obviously Black woman with you. Okay, go for that. I'm going to go for some earned media. And, we will just clown about the fact that apparently this is really only the Black and liberal caucus. because y'all don't have your mind right. We're just doing the work. We've threatened the heck out of them. The latest rumor is that I'm guilty of murder for hire. I killed my husband last year. They actually have this on a wanted poster that says, $50,000 for my head. Yeah, that was yesterday. That's my opponent. That's the kind of campaign they're running.
Do you have one of those posters?
Huh?
Do you have one of those posters?
I don't have the poster. It's like an online poster. I could, you know what? I can email it to you and you can post it somewhere like,
you just
really?
That's one of those
that's what
things
we're doing. But I
things.
understand what they're scared about because they screwed up, did not pay attention to the people in the area, did not listen to what the people wanted, ain't talked to nobody in a million years, ain't walked, ain't tried to solve any of these people's problems, ain't worked, ain't paid any attention to these older people that, they're going through and, their money's not going far enough because they're on a fixed income and the inflation screwing them up. They're not calling Silver Key like I am to have these people brought a meal. They're not making any effort. They don't care about these people. And I'm just praying to God that these people are not fooled when they walk behind me in the areas I've already been in and they have the fool in front of them that makes it clear they don't care about them. I gave away 1,000 business cards to people, just in the last month and said, if you need anything, don't you hesitate to call. And they were dumbfounded, like, I can call you? Yeah, I would prefer that you don't call me at midnight, but if you have to, I'll get up. I'm a different kind of candidate, and so I'm looking forward to that. I've been chatting with some folks up in Denver about kind of some of the things. They have great trainings for when you come in new to the house, and I'm kind of trying to get ready for those things and really just absolutely believing for things. I think that Coloradans are tired of these lackluster results from this. Let me use the phrase again, feel good legislation. They're tired of it. Oh, y'all. It's been an hour.
Oh yeah, they go by real quick.
And it went by quickly.
It goes by quick.
Enjoyed talking with you guys. I literally was like, let me see what kind of questions they have. You have no idea how many of these I go to, and it's like a trap.
Nope, we're not here to trap you.
They're going, what social issue can we get her on? And I upset them because I got asked recently, will you support the LGBTQ community? I said, yeah. Can we not use the rest of the alphabet? They're like, what? Of course I support every community. What are you talking about? And then they're like, why did you say that? Because I support every community. Is this like, what's the problem? Oh, well, you're supposed to be the racist, homophobic, terrible Republican that doesn't like anybody. I was like, that's stupid. Did you know the Republican community has LGBT organizations that are quite large? Then they're like, what? I didn't know that. That's because you're off in the corner making up some stuff with the media person. You get to write down the stuff you made up, and you ain't been out in these streets with these people for a while. Most of the LGBTQ community doesn't stand what the hell all the letters stand for. And they don't appreciate being called that. They're just like, what happened to being called queer? I'm like, I don't know. That's what we used to say in the 80s. They're like, well, let's go back to it. I'm like, okay.
No, and Larry Elder is another one you can add to that list. Same kind of harsh treatment the moment the man speaks, his
absolutely
mind.
And I get it about the harsh treatment. I was kind of ready. I wrote political opinion for the Gazette for 4 years, and they're so funny. They kicked me off when they found that I was running for office. Like, you're not supposed to do these at the same time. I said, really? So they said, you can come back after you win. I said, great. Okay, that sounds like a deal. So I'm looking to come back to them next month. And I got all kinds of hate mail and people attacking on Facebook and people crazy as could be and people jumping up and down. You're Black. You're not supposed to think like that. Oh, so we're deciding how I can think in accordance with my color. Am I crazy, or does that sound like separate but equal all over again? Isn't that?
Yes. So, so will you come back on with us after you've had what, a month? I would say after the first of the year, after you've had some,
I will.
and
I have
tell us your experiences and
oh, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of stories about that because even the off season up in Denver is very, very interesting because there's still a lot of activity, and that'll be a fun thing to tell you all about. But thank you for having me on. I mean, people in North Colorado that are just like, what is that wild woman doing? They can go check out my website at www.stovall for you. Again, that is www.stovall4u.com. And I just feel like be able to see that, because some of what we've learned here, we could flip the majority of the urban corridors in Colorado if we would apply the work. Some of which I'm not going to tell on here because I could. My competitor will have somebody watching this and be like,
oh,
damn it, she won't tell all her secrets. I can't tell all my secrets, but I can tell you this. We touched the people multiple times between the beginning of the campaign and now, because you'll have to, running in at the last second and pretending to like these people is not the same as living among them and doing things for them. And that's what I'm counting on. And I think we need to raise up candidates that do the same where they live. Some of these areas, Aurora and some of these other ones, we can have them back, but we have to do
oh yeah,
work.
yep.
Yeah, we have to do
It's
work.
all about the work.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. We really
Thank you.
appreciate your time and had a great conversation talking to you.
It was
Yeah.
nice. It was a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Looking forward to doing this again. See you soon.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.